Thank you for being on our program today. My friend Curt Hahn started a webpage, Shop Teachers, and it's gone global. And it's the whole idea of industrial arts, industrial classes, and the whole issue of the need. Is there a need? We've asked that question back and forth and have done several programs on that area. And then a special question came up. The idea of, do we need to help accelerate the number of girls and women who are not only participating but also teaching the field of industrial arts? And we're very, very thrilled to have somebody who can help us find the answer to the question. Catherine, or we'll call her Kate Wedekind. And she is in the central areas. And let me read her background. It's very interesting. And we're going to interview her today about this question we set up for this idea of women and girls in industrial arts. Kate grew up in a farm in Butler, Illinois, and Curt and I already conferred that we know very little about farming, very little, if any at all. Growing up, she was involved in FFA, 4-H, heard of that, and spent a lot of time, free time, showing spot hogs. Don't ask me what a spot hog is, but she can probably tell us. She's a 2006 graduate of Hillsborough High School in Illinois, a 2008 graduate in Lincoln Land Community College Agricultural Department, and a 2010 graduate of Western Illinois University with a BS in Agricultural Education. She is currently employed by the Pawnee Junior Senior High School as an industrial arts teacher. Throughout her career, she worked in 3 different schools districts as an agricultural teacher, but Pawnee is her first industrial arts position. Yay! Yay. So let me start with you, Kate. Kate, did you see yourself as a teacher when you were a young lady?
Yes, I always wanted to be a teacher, and it never was a question of what I was going to be. I was going to be a teacher. It was a matter of choosing which subject I was interested in. And growing up on the farm, it's hard not to be passionate about agriculture and wanting to share that with other people, especially with my grandma says I have a teacher's heart. So everybody was ecstatic when I decided to major in agriculture education. I never saw myself as an industrial arts teacher, though. I didn't get to do a lot of woodworking or mechanics on the farm. And so that was something that I would have called a weakness of mine when I first started teaching. But in Illinois, and that usually consists of a quarter of welding, a quarter of woodworking, and a quarter of small engines. So it's something in the first 7 years of teaching that I really kind of grew to enjoy quite a bit. And when the opportunity to interview at Pawnee came open, that was going to put me a lot closer to home than my previous position. And I really enjoy woodworking a lot, and I enjoy electricity a lot. And which is the basics of our program. The program, Industrial Arts program at Pawnee, has traditionally been woodworking based with some CAD, and they are adding some more metals curriculum. And so I jumped at the opportunity, especially excited to have a hand in developing some of their metals curriculum and being closer to home. So it's been really hard with COVID, and we're full remote. And so I only see my kids through the computer screen right now, but really it's not all bad, because it's really given me a chance to get to know my shop and get things organized, and we'll be ready to hit the ground running, hopefully in January when the kids come back.
One question, how many students are junior high and how many are high school? Because we're not familiar with that combination. At least I'm not here in Los Angeles.
Well, if I had to guess, and I'm new to Pawnee, so I might be completely off base, but I would have to guess that we graduate about 40 students a year. And actually at Pawnee, our entire school district is in one building. The elementary is on the north end, the junior high is in the middle, and the senior high is on the south end.
This is farm country, really,
Yes,
just
yes.
remote. Oh, that's
Yep.
wonderful.
Only 15 minutes from Springfield, the state capital, but still, once you don't have to get too far south of Springfield to hit a lot of farm country and a lot of rural communities. So
I guess you share a lot in common with individuals, teachers, school districts, etc. in Canada, where it's more sparse and schools get smaller and smaller, and like you say, they're all in one position, one base. Everybody knows everybody in their small numbers.
absolutely, yeah. And our tax base is just spread out more and more. I really do see a lot of consolidations happening in the next 10 to 15 years in Central Illinois. Just quite a few people moving out, quite a few businesses moving out. And probably the businesses leaving first have the most to do with it. But I don't foresee myself leaving. I really enjoy some of the family farm stuff that I get to do in my free time. So
wonderful. Mr. Hahn, I know you had a question.
I was going to say 40 students. Gee, I had that in one period.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's interesting because my first question is ag to shop. Now they are sort of interrelated because when you're on the farm, you got to fix a lot of stuff because there's nobody else
Right.
to do it. But why the choice? And if you already covered it,
Well, it just goes back to I enjoyed my ag mechanics class, and I could see a lot of parallels between the curriculum. And actually, you guys have probably heard of the Cart company, CAERT. Well, anyway, they provide curriculum in Illinois, at least. I know they're a nationwide company, but I actually use some of their ag mechanics curriculum in several of my classes. I just something I've already been comfortable with as an ag teacher, and it kind of fits in well with some of the stuff they provided me as an industrial arts teacher. And so I've kind of been calling my classes so far industrial arts with an agriculture flair.
That's wonderful. I'm trying to see. Okay, what is the difference? Forgive me if this sounds a silly question. What's the difference between agricultural studies and industrial arts studies? Because it seems they overlap so much.
There is a huge overlap, especially in Illinois. There's only one university left in Illinois that has an industrial arts education program that will get you a teaching certificate and get you in the classroom. And we've really seen a shift in Illinois that a lot of the industrial arts teachers who reach retirement and retire are replaced by ag teachers, and those classes become part of the ag department. And so I think it's a great shift. We have a really strong agricultural education coalition in Illinois, and agriculture education has its own line item in the education budget in Illinois. And there are just so many opportunities for grants and connections with different agricultural and industrial companies in Illinois for an ag program. And there are very few traditional industrial arts teachers left in Illinois.
in California, there's a big shift anywhere where, because I'm retired, I taught electronics for computers for 17 years. There's a big shift that's saying, oh, he retired. You're the math teacher. Well, guess what? You're teaching auto shop now because you're a STEM teacher. Or,
oh my God,
you're the physics teacher. Oh, well, good, because you're going to teach electronics because that's physics. And taking a lot of these teachers out of their classes. Oh, you're a shop teacher now because, yeah, it's sort of related. Because in California, there's only one, possibly two schools that still do teacher credentialing for industrial arts, industrial engineering. I'm sorry.
And given the fact that we're talking about California being the most populated state in the nation, so when you say two, that's real trouble all the way around.
And one of those I'm not sure of.
Kate, let me ask a question. I'm you're breaking down a lot of, you're making me realize how many things I have wrong in my head about the subject of agriculture. As far as I know, and please educate, as far as I know, agriculture is becoming more techo, where they're using drones to analyze, the fields, and I'm seeing robotic machinery out in the fields, doing things, whatever. Is that what's going on in Illinois over the next 5 to 10 years in the farming world?
I would say yes. I think we're definitely heading in that direction. I think robotics, not as much, but definitely drones. I see a lot of agronomists and farmers out checking fields with drones instead. With the robotics side of things, there's a big insurance issue when you think about big tractors, big combines running themselves. But there are, they did unveil, one of my favorite things to take my students to as an ag teacher was the Farm Progress Show. And it jumps between Decatur, Illinois and a location in Iowa. And they did debut a robotic tractor at the Farm Progress Show last year, the year before. And it was very interesting. And I really think that's been the shift. My grandpa, when he started farming back in the 60s, it was him and a group of 6 or 7 guys doing all the labor, with a couple tractors, but mostly Percheron horses. And now today, my uncle, my cousin, and one hired guy take care of everything. And a lot of people would say that they are heavy on the labor side for the same amount of acres that my grandpa was working with back in the 60s. And so we do have a little bit less livestock than we did back then, but definitely a shift. And a lot of those automations are just making things so much easier. I know my uncle incorporates some auto steer, which the farmer's still in the tractor turning on the end rows, but it helps really the accuracy of planting, and it really makes the inputs, makes you more efficient with your inputs. So you're using the correct amount of seed, the correct amount of fertilizer, the correct amount of pesticides, and so forth. And that I teach a production tech class, and I really haven't got a straight answer from anybody exactly what's to be taught in that class. But we're spending a lot of time with metal work, and also I'm going to spend a lot of time on some of those technologies like drones and some of the automated stuff that we find in the manufacturing industry, because even the soda delivery guy is carrying a computer in his hand now. So if we can talk about some of the different technology applications in this, not just industry, but agriculture, manufacturing, that I think no matter what field my students go into, that they'll be at least aware, maybe not totally prepared, but they'll be aware of how the industry is working.
Well, I know the 1 or 2 friends of mine who are into, I want to use ag, whether it be farming or ranching or whatever. They're telling me, they're into everything. Everything from welding to electronics to mechanics to solar power to electronics, because that's the nature of the game. You're 50, 100 miles from anywhere, and you're it. And
yeah.
You gotta have at least an understanding of what's going on before you call that repairman who's got to drive 4.5 hours to get you there, charge you for the drive time, whatever time to fix it, and the drive time back. So they're into
absolutely.
Everything.
We don't have that much of a distance issue, but it is nice. I know my dad contract finishes hogs, and everything is automated in his building. The temperatures, the fans, the feed systems, they're all run through some type of electronic computer program. And he has a great electrician that's only about 20 minutes away, which is great for him. But over the years, he's able to learned how to fix a lot of things on his own without assistance. So definitely, he likes to say himself enough credit for the things, the electronics and some of the computer knowledge that he has when it comes to the hog buildings.
So, well, I think
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you got to tell me the story of the manure spreader, though. I mean, I've been waiting for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Where did you get that story from?
She posted this thing about needing a ramp.
Oh.
And how to get this manure spreader into her wood shop. My first question is, what in the world do you need that for? And then to read the responses about building this ramp. And my first thought was, build the ramp, don't tell anybody, put the spreader in the shop, take the ramp away, and when it's all done, reverse the process and go, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
Well, I've actually had several farmers approach me about rebuilding the top of their hay wagons. You know, because the top of a hay wagon, all it is just a a 2x6 deck on a chassis on a wheels, 4 wheels, and a tongue that moves back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I said, sure, absolutely, that'd be a great restoration type project for woodworking. And even if we just get a new wood deck put on it, they'd be satisfied. So my shop at school is more of a loading dock style. And I asked my predecessor how he got big things into the shop. He goes, oh, I didn't. We just made furniture. So I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to do, but I have this old manure spreader, and I don't know how it is in California, but manure spreaders are hard to come by in Illinois. They either want to sell you a really old one as an antique, or they want to sell you a brand new one for like $5,000. So my dad has this old manure spreader that he would like to be functional. And I said, after a summer, I spent all summer, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, looking for something, in the $1,000 or less range. With no luck, I said, I'm going to have a classroom full of students who need a project. Let me just take that to school and we'll fix it right up for you. We'll put a new floor in it. We'll put a new chain in it. We'll give it a fresh coat of paint. It'll do the trick. And then when I got to school and realized what my garage door entrance to my shop looked like, I was a little disappointed.
This is so wonderful. We've been talking, Mr. Hahn and I and other shop teachers, where students do projects and, never quite ask the question in my mind, what happens to the projects once they're finished? In your case, you're bringing in projects that they have to be fixed now. They're going to be fixed now. They go back out in the field and they're working the next day. There's an immediate impact of the ability to do something. It's not a luxury. You're making things keep working. That's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think the kids will appreciate that. I can't tell you much about the demographics of my students because I saw them for 40 minutes on the first day of school, and since then I've only seen them on Zoom. So I'm sure that there will be a few farm kids who can help me make those connections for the kids who won't see that. But yeah, I mean, that's what I've always wanted. I want, it's great to build Adirondack chairs and planters and picnic tables and, some of the traditional shop projects that I've done with my ag mechanics students in the past, but this is the real deal. And that's what I've always wanted for the projects. I feel like that'll be most impactful for them in the future.
Yeah, because you're teaching time management, you're teaching customer relations, deadlines, due dates, real live production problems, all the stuff that they're going to face down the road, as opposed to, yeah, okay, we'll get it done when we get it done. And it's like, no, I need this thing like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you learn is if you didn't do it right, it's going to break down again real fast. So that's really the test. It isn't, I think it's great. No. Let's go out there. It breaks. Somebody messed up somewhere. Let's focus a little bit on the specific subject that is of high interest to me. And that is, have you ever felt sort of, I'm not sure the word is discriminated, but sort of put aside because you're a woman trying to learn all this agricultural activity when you were young?
Absolutely. Not necessarily when I was, not necessarily growing up, because my grandparents, my parents were always very encouraging of me. And I tell people, I feel like I lived a storybook childhood. Like, I didn't know discrimination. I didn't know, we went through tough times because we were farmers, you know, and there's always tough years, but my parents never let me know that. I kind of had a storybook childhood. I didn't run into any of those issues, you know, until I went to college and until I got my first teaching job. And boy, do you learn real quick what a cruel place the world can be. And not that anybody was particularly mean to me, but, you know, some people are very set in their interpretation of gender roles. And, you know, some people don't believe that women should be in the shop and that women shouldn't be teaching shop classes. And I was never, it was never like said, you shouldn't be an ag teacher, you can't teach shop. That was never said to me, but it was the subtle hints from parents and administrators. Not my current administrators. My current administrators are great and have been very open to my ideas, but I have come across several individuals in the past who have made me feel uncomfortable about my abilities as a shop teacher.
Was it strictly because you were a woman?
Either that or I'm young. I mean, I'm 32. A lot of people tell me I don't look 32, and
You don't.
I'm sure some people appreciate that, but I still get you're the teacher, and it gets old.
What about the girls that come into your classes? And, you know, I'm assuming that because of where you are geographically, they're coming off other farms. But,
yes.
You know, how do they feel, the young students, when they see you as the female role model, a dash teacher?
Well, I think in some cases I have an advantage over male shop teachers because I think high school girls see me, well, if she can do it, I can too. And I think just having females in the profession is breaking down some barriers for those kids. Like, I can totally do this. In my CAD class this year, I have 2 girls, and we're going to have a blast when we get back to school and we actually get to start putting some stuff together. I have a little low on girls this year, but in my previous positions, I always encourage the girls to take the ag mechanics classes because, you know, if you can replace a bum receptacle in your house, or you understand, you can sound intelligent when you call the repairman, that's going to get you so far. You know, I know a lot of girls I went to high school with, you know, they took ag mechanics and convinced the cutest boy to finish their project for them and stuff like that. And that, you know, my goal is to just, any girl that sets foot inside my room, that they don't want to be that girl that does that, and that they want to learn, and that they're going to take away something from it. And I will tell you, over the last 8 years, I have had several girls who could out weld, out woodwork, out mechanic some of the best boys in my classes. And that's just because I feel a lot of that had to do with, I won't take all the credit for it, but I feel like that had a lot to do with me, you know, having a positive attitude and encouraging them that this just isn't a boy thing. You know, there are plenty who are doing awesome things, and you can too.
I've had several young ladies throughout the years who have done outstanding things. And Armando will tell you, outstanding things, because they had that inner, you know what it is, that inner motivation, that inner drive. I can't tell you what it is, but you know what it is. Who've done outstanding things because they did.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm kind of driven.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of driven by that. I'm kind of driven by that because I've had the, you know, nobody says it out loud, but you get the impression, oh, you can't do this because you're a girl. That makes me push even harder. And maybe I'm just stubborn like that, but you know, I want other girls to feel that way too. Well, I can do it because I want to do it, not because you say I can or I can't. Maybe I'm super stubborn, but that was one of the main things. Like, I found this job, it was closer to home, and I was like, I can do this. I can totally do this. Now, there are so many things, I've got a lot to learn about the CAD software. I've got a lot to learn about the CNC machines in my shop. But I think some of the most beneficial educational experiences I've had are when the students and I learn together about a new technology that's in the shop. Because I'm sure the same is true for shop teachers, but as an ag teacher, it's impossible to know how to do everything and about everything. Mm-hmm. And I've always relied heavily on community members, but I've also learned a lot from my students who have had those real life experiences. My dad's an electrician, or my dad's a mechanic, or my dad is a general contractor, and this works well for him. This is what he does. And oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm going to do that all the time now. So.
Yeah, I used to make my administrator mad because he would tell me, you can't do that. And I'd say, I'll do it just to make you mad.
Well, I've never said that because unfortunately I've never had the luxury of tenure. So yeah. I've thought it before many times, but never said that kind of stuff out loud because
I never said I did it out loud, but it was very clear that I would do it anyway. Just
yeah.
But I think we're also focusing on the idea of the impact that you're having as a female teacher who has the background. None of us have all the background, no matter what we're teaching. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge that. But just the idea that more girls are going into the technical world. And I want to clarify that when I say shop teachers or industrial arts, I still run into people with the old mentality that they think they're bending metal all the time. I say, yeah, it's that, but it's also, connecting my computer to satellites so that they can see what they're doing down on the ground and yada, yada. And now all of a sudden people are not sure are you talking about computers? Yes, it's been added to the field. And mm-hmm. It's much broader now. It's much more professional now. It's much more than just, like you say, now you're running an automated factory running for pigs rather than actually working with the pigs themselves. It's far more industrialized than we are now conceiving. And I don't think many of us, I will say that for myself, we don't always remember that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I see in Illinois a shift towards, there's no set lines between the business teachers and the ag teachers and the shop teachers and the family and consumer science teachers. There are concepts that all four of us are teaching. And I don't know if that's a shift in our state Board of Education pushing us towards more more STEM type skills, or the curriculum companies that we're utilizing. But I see in Illinois, because agriculture education is so strong, that some of those business teachers, some of those industrial arts teachers, and some of those family and consumer science teachers are being replaced by ag teachers, because our ag curriculum covers food science, covers business concepts. We have a ag computers outline that would cover some of the business concepts. And then of course, you name it, as far as the shop type classes, ag construction, power mechanics, small engine maintenance and repair, some of the ag mechanics classes go into surveying. It basically, if you call a class ag mechanics, you can pretty much cover any of those topics and be within the scope of the syllabus that's been approved by the state. And I'm so thankful. I know other content areas, other CTE areas have so many resources and so many grants and so many, field staff that are supporting us. And I do miss that a little bit in the shop position. But I still, once you make those industry contacts and contacts with the local gas supplier and the local welding representative are still, people I met a long time ago that are there to help me in my new position. So it's pretty interesting.
It is. It has been tremendously. We're getting close to the end of the show, but Mr. Hahn has a statement, and then we're getting ready to close. Go ahead, Mr. Hahn.
I know in California, because you had mentioned FFA, in California, once you sort of get out of Southern California, FFA and 4-H are huge,
Yes.
especially if you go up the Central Valley. I mean, they're huge in terms of, they're called career student technical organizations. I mean, they have a huge driving force in Sacramento because agriculture is a huge chunk of state of California economy.
And most people don't know that.
And most people don't know that.
Right.
Whereas in Southern California, ag is like, and.
Yeah, we hardly have anything out here. That's we have some, but yeah, it's almost next to none. What was that? What was that story not too long ago? Kids in the classroom were shocked to find out that meat came from animals. That's how bad we are here in Los Angeles. I remember that one. Kids were shocked that we actually killed animals. They thought, no, it comes from the supermarket.
Yeah.
I might be crying a little bit, guys.
Well, it's a huge disconnect between reality and.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Well, as we're getting ready to close the show, Katie, Kate, do you have a contact information that our viewers, our listeners can go to?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook, Kate Wedekind, or Twitter. My Twitter handle is Hope in the Hollow, and Facebook probably is the best way.
Okay. Could you give it out one more time, please? I was writing it down. I don't think I caught it.
Kate Wedekind on Facebook.
Okay.
Or my Twitter handle is Hope in the Hollow.
Okay. Wonderful.
I spend a lot of my free time advocating for mental health awareness. So my Twitter is devoted to some of that, but definitely bring on the shop talk.
Great. You are really a mover and the shaker. Mr. Hahn, closing statements on your end.
Well, for Kate, there's a lot of lady, and I use the term shop teachers very, very liberally, very openly and very, very liberally. There's a lot of lady teachers teaching a variety of things. So you have a shop teacher page that you're a member of. And, if you need help, questions, advice, ideas, use it. That's what it's for. Because that's how people learn. You learn from each other. And you learn from each other. Because you had mentioned earlier, there's probably nobody in the school who knows what you're doing except you.
Nope, not at all.
Which can be a good thing.
Yes.
I'm going to piggyback on your statement, Mr. Hahn. We work together on many projects. I think because of the evolution of things, i.e. technology, AI, computerization, etc., they're bringing in so many new elements and mixing up the pot with new ways of thinking that I don't think anyone really has a grasp on it. And legislation, by the time they put it into the books, we're already 3 years past that or 4 years ahead of that. And it's already outdated even the day it's finished for print. That's just the times. We're just dealing with so many new technologies. But what I get from you, Kate, is that you've embraced them. You're open to seeing how they interlock and interconnect. And I think that's your strength, that you're with an open mind and your personal gender doesn't seem to matter to you. And I think that's your strength as well. But with that, Kate, let me pass it over to you, and you have the closing statements.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for having me. This has been a great experience, and I've always been an advocate for all of my students, of course, but especially the young ladies who want to try something new in the shop world. And, my whole thing is it doesn't matter who you are, no matter where you came from, that if you work hard, you can achieve anything you want to. And whether that fits your gender role or not. And, there are there are so many new technologies and there are so many new opportunities that, there are a lot of ways to slice and dice the things that we want to accomplish. And some of those new techniques are definitely worth exploring and making those real life connections. I love incorporating the community into my classroom, and that's the only way. I feel like that's the best way to become a better teacher for myself, is if I know what's going on in the community and that my kids see my willingness to learn. And that's kind of just been my personal motivation as a teacher.
Can you, can I ask you to do one more small favor? Can you address the girls who are students who are thinking of going into the shop classes? What advice would you give them?
Go for it. And don't look back. You try it, because a girl I went to high school with, I was just floored when I heard what she had decided to major in college. And she went to school to be an electrician, and she worked as an electrician for many years until she and her husband decided to settle down and start a family. And from what I had heard, she was one of the best electricians in her union. And there, you just never know what's going to interest you. And high school is the time to try those things. Try it. If you like it, fantastic. You can incorporate that into your future career or even a future hobby. And if you don't like it, at least you've learned something new, and you can mark that up as something I don't like. Don't hesitate to ask, and don't be afraid to get in there and get your hands dirty.
Wonderful. I want to thank Mr. Curt Hahn for joining us on this program, and I've definitely learned a great deal from you. You go by Kate. It's also
Yes.
Catherine Wedekind, and you're from Butler, Illinois. So we got a whole new set of education. I know that I have had to transfer a lot of my mindsets, and I thank you for that, Kate. And Mr. Hahn, thank you also for being on the program, and we look forward to having you into future shows. But one last time, we want people to contact you so that they can get more information and learn about what you're doing. So before we close off, can you please give us your contact information, please?
Okay. You can find me on Facebook on Kate Wedekind, Wedekind. And my Twitter handle is Hope in the Hollow, all together.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for being on our program. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you also for participating. And you have any questions about any information shared today on this program, you can contact me directly at afsanchez66@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Armando F. Sanchez Production. Thank you, Kate, and I wish you continual success. Okay, and thank you for the education. I learned a lot today. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.